I could do mine too, huh?
And while you're doing that, I'll just go ahead because it is after the 1 o'clock hour and say thank you for joining us today on behalf of the system. And thank you to Dr. James who brought this idea to us. So we met a few times, like, let's do a webinar and we'll start the conversation that way. And so we hope that this is just the first of many conversations. But my role today is to record this meeting and to say welcome and to turn it over to Dr. James and her team. So thank you very much for being here, and I will go silent.
All right. Thank you, Kim. And I echo the welcome and I appreciate your time. If you are just coming on to the meeting, if you'll put your name and institution and your favorite spot to find nature on your campus, I'll get started with telling you how we came to this spot we are today. So, just again, thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Joy James. I'm a professor of recreation management at Appalachian State University. And I thought, it'd be nice to kind of know how we kind of came about this idea. Back in February of 2024, I attended a UNCA system guide training. It's a guiding universities and demonstrating empathy training. And it was to empower college faculty and staff on conducting effective student conversations and support. And the training was excellent. I highly recommend it. However, my research and the work that I do at the Hope Lab has been talking about nature and physical activity, and nowhere in those strategies was anything about nature and physical activity. So I went up to Kelly, who's at another spot. She was instrumental from the UNC office to get us going in this direction. And I said, "Why isn't this happening?" She said, "Let's talk." So I started talking with her and she reintroduced me, or not reintroduced me. I've known Kim for a while. She and I got our masters together and we've worked together at App State. And Kim came on board, Kim Mitchell, who is the Director for Student Development and the the Associated Student Government Advisor. And we began thinking of ways that we could connect people about what's happening on our campuses because we know there's some great things happening. It's just there's not a forum or a format to be able to get those out, to be able to connect and maybe even copy each other and see what we could do better or see how we can improve. So thus the idea of this webinar was born. And our goal with this webinar is to generate statewide interest in forming a group dedicated to advancing interdisciplinary conversations, research, applications, and resources in the idea of connecting students with nature. So today, what we thought we'd do to get the conversation started is just share a little bit about what App State's been doing with the hope of generating interest for future discussions and collaborations. So let me introduce this idea of the Hope Lab, which is called the Healthy Outdoor Play and Exercise Lab, or HOPE. We've been operating as a lab, interdisciplinary lab, since about 2015, even a little bit before that. Becky can give me more history on that. But we were established to bring together researchers and practitioners from various disciplines to promote health through outdoor physical activity, exercise, and play. Today, we're going to be sharing some of the initiatives from the Hope Lab, as well as other initiatives that have been happening independently across campus. We've set up a format that I'm calling the 3-minute campus nature snapshot, which is similar to the 3-minute thesis competition. So we're not having a competition. Don't worry, my presenters. I just modeled it in that way so that we could quickly go through some of these initiatives and maybe generate interest or questions that might happen at the end of our presentations. So what we'll do is we'll go through, we have about 5 presenters, hopefully take about 20 minutes, but who knows, when we like to talk, we might extend that a little bit. And then we're going to open up for any questions and that you might have about these particular projects. And we'll move into the other part of our webinar where we'll see what we need to do if we want to continue this and see what format we want to continue with. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sharing my screen. And again, welcome to coming here. If you just got on, don't hesitate to share your, let's see, what am I looking for? Share your name and institution that you're with, and also a place that you like to go for nature. Oops, let me go back. All right, so our first speaker today is going to be Dr. Brooke Towner with Health Physical Education um, program here at App State, and she is part of the Hope Lab. So take it away, Hope. Take it away, Brooke.
Hey there. Like Joy said, I am Brooke Towner. I am health physical education and coaching program here at App State, and I get to give you a snapshot of the Hope Lab and really what working with the Hope Lab has meant to me as junior faculty. So I got involved with the Hope Lab because Joy, Rich, and Becky stopped by my office tons and tons of times the first week of my first semester at App State, but also because I believe there's something super special when we bring learning outdoors and connect with nature. Hope Lab's mission is to explore outdoor play and exercise. And it's really aligned with things that I care about: student wellness, creative pedagogy, and community impact. So, a brief intro into what the Hope Lab is. Like Joy said, it stands for Healthy Outdoor Play and Exercise, and it was officially established in 2016, but began much earlier as a collaborative research cluster. And I think what makes the Hope Lab unique is that there's an intentional focus on being interprofessional. We have faculty and students, undergraduate and graduate, from public health, exercise science, physical education, recreation management, social work, at one time nursing, and now psychology. And we all come together under this shared vision to understand and promote the role of physical activity, exercise, and play on health, our environment, and human development. Some of the early work the Hope Lab has done centered around park prescription programs, where healthcare providers provided or prescribed time in parks as part of a wellness plan. And over time, we've expanded, again, because of the interdisciplinary nature, to things like mental health and lifespan approaches, and creating partnerships with organizations like Kids in Parks and Parks Are Ex America. And these projects help to create one of the first rural park prescription databases in the country and really evaluate outdoor experiences. So for me, joining the Hope Lab in 2018 has really been a meaningful part of my academic journey. I was welcomed as a colleague and collaborator right away. We've co-authored presentations and publications together. We've worked on a bunch of interdisciplinary projects. And I think it's fun to be with people who are like-minded and want to achieve a vision and a mission together. We laugh, we brainstorm, we support each other. We've even gotten lost together, headed down to Lake James State Park. And we worked on some really meaningful projects. One for me was a collaboration with the Academy at Middle Fork, which is a public university lab school. And it really all started because Joy's mentor had this idea about this comparison between physical activity with children chasing bugs and children chasing balls. And so we looked at this first grade class and had how they responded to science lessons with different levels of physical activity and in different settings. And one component was the kids drew pictures after each lesson, and there were huge differences. One being that the outdoor active lessons came alive with like smiles and movement and engagement. And in those traditional classroom lessons, there were empty tables and just images. And I think that hammers home what we talk about a lot is that nature and movement are catalysts for learning and enjoyment. And so really the Hope Lab has given me more than a research home. It's given me mentors, it's given me collaborators, and a direction for my scholarship that has really helped shape my path toward tenure. And my hope is that this work inspires students and more universities to get outside and to work together and to use nature and resources to create healthier, more connected communities. And hopefully that's my 3 minutes.
Thank you, Brooke. We're going to move on to the next presentation with Logan Reynolds with University Recreation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Logan Reynolds. Like Joyce said, I work with at University Recreation as the Assistant Director for Fitness and Communications, and I'm also an adjunct professor as well. So I'll talk to you all about Exercise Medicine on Campus, which is an international type program based from ACSM, who work together to work on the fast-growing challenges of physical inactivity that we see going on. And the goal of this is really just to get people moving in some form or some fashion, meeting them where they're at. And how it works on the campus side is someone can go to the health center or the counseling center or going through nutrition through one of the fridge services or even through myself. And it's noticed an intake that maybe physical activity would be beneficial in their life to help with whatever they got going on. And so they get referred through the EIM referral system. And so the top of the thing is just like a little aspect to show all the different aspects in which people can provide one. And then once they do, they fill out a form and it comes to me and two graduate assistants who we then meet with them one-on-one to see where they are in their journey and what it is they want to achieve and see as the end result. Through that, we've been able to really help different types of students. We even had one who went through the program and fell in love with the community aspect and ended up working for us here at UREC, which I thought was a really great full circle moment that they found that community just going through this referral process. We're continually to assess how it is that it's going, what can we do better next time, and see what else we can add. I believe it just, whenever I first started here, they were just getting free personal training and there wasn't a lot of people taking the referral process. And so we've been working to more so focus on what do they want out of it? Do they want personal training or do they want to be paired up with a club or a partner or someone just to help keep them moving and motivated throughout their time with us? And I think, as we continue to grow this, our goal is to hopefully be able to connect with more resources on campus. So that way we can actually be able to have a holistic form of resources available to them rather than just here's one thing or another. And so it's really nice to kind of see how well their well-being of those who do complete it go through. I think our next phase is a follow-up process to reaching out to those who have finished, getting more of a like what was their thought process, how did it work for them, and then also reaching out to those who are hesitant about going through the process and seeing what can we do on our end to help them feel comfortable, or what kinds of resources are they going to feel the most benefited from. And so that's our mission, is to continue to provide these resources and support for all the students and find ways to get movement. I mean, if you're on App State campus, like going from class to class, it's a workout for living of itself too. But how can they expand that beyond just walking to class? And that's what our goal is to just keep moving and to do it together. So that way we can help to change people's lives.
Thank you, Logan. I recently walked across campus and was huffing and puffing, how are these kids not in shape? Our next presentation is going to be with Heidi Campbell, who's with the App State Counseling Services.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Heidi Campbell. I am an assistant director with our Student Counseling Center. I coordinate our emergency services and professional development. And I am excited to share just a little snapshot of some of the initiatives we have had around nature-centered programming. So as a clinical service, our center is not so much involved with research and scholarship, but really focused on four main kind of pillars around clinical service, training. So we have doctoral and master's level, a real active training program between 8 and 12 trainees each semester. We do a lot of consultation and outreach. And so within each of those areas, we've been able to incorporate nature-centered initiatives in different ways. So around, my interest really and drive for this has really come from just personal passion and interest as a lifelong outdoor enthusiast, and then really finding some connections on campus with people like Becky and Joy around some of these collaborations on campus. And then just being in an environment such as App State, where I think our natural environment really lends itself so well to all of these activities we're talking about. And so some of the things we have done in terms of clinical services is integrating nature-centered activities into treatment planning that we're already doing. So we know that the most common concerns students bring: depression, anxiety, stress, trauma, among other issues, that activities in nature, immersion in nature really lends itself to the goals that students have in their therapy, in their individual and group therapy. And so there's really a natural extension of that. It may just be, taking walks outside. I've had students who use like cold water plunges for emotion regulation, things like that. So there's so much application Walk and Talk Therapy is a program we started out of COVID, and it takes students out of the office into our environment to do therapy in a non-traditional setting that feels more comfortable and safe for folks who maybe aren't as comfortable in an individual, with eye contact, things like that. Exercise is medicine we've been actively involved in is providing fitness prescriptions. Logan talked about that. And then our training program, that's one way where we have really implemented. We've had doctoral interns who are really interested and involved and have done workshops through outdoor programs. One of the interns and I participated in the Outdoorosity podcast a couple of years ago, which was really fun. We do a lot of outreach programming, workshops, seminars. We've used the Labyrinth on campus, which is a wonderful outdoor, just natural place that we can get to from walking. We've partnered quite a bit over the years with outdoor programs and UREC. I've participated in 4 or 5 alternative service experiences where those have combined outdoor volunteer service with conservation in places all around the country. That's been a really nice way to connect students to and infuse mental health promotion through service. And then Climate Connection Circles is just a recent thing that through the QEP, I'm connected with the QEP implementation committee on our campus and looking at how to move from climate emotion, climate dread, climate anxiety, eco-anxiety to solutions and action using our natural environment to promote that. So climate circles are one way that we started that in the last year. I think that's about my time. Thanks.
Thank you, Heidi. I hadn't heard about the climate circles, so I'm going to have to ask you more about that later. All right, so I am your next speaker, and it's to talk about a QEP that didn't make it or was not accepted, but we were one of the finalists. And in 2021, as all universities across the state are doing, we have to, at some point, create a new quality enhancement plan, which is a 5-year strategy aimed at improving student learning and success as a part of the SACS accreditation process. The Hope Lab, we decided to propose a plan centered on enhancing student well-being and leveraging nature's benefits. So while, as I mentioned earlier, we didn't get we weren't a finalist, and we titled it Healthy and Happy, with Appy being large caps, as a QEP proposal. While it wasn't selected, I still want to share its story because it's important and germane to what we're talking about today in terms of what initiatives we've started as well as what we've continued doing. First, I want to explain the proposal to you just in a little brief overview. We recognize the heart of student success was their well-being. And when a student's well-being is nurtured, they actually perform better academically. Also, we know exposure to nature enhances our focus, memory retention, and cognitive function, which leads to better test scores and increased engagement. So given these benefits, we thought, why not connect students to campus nature and resources to prioritize their well-being? So our QEP that we proposed, the Healthy and Happy, had these 4 components. We were going to create a healthy and well-being coordination hub, which would promote existing and maybe new services that we would be that are across campus and integrate nature's role into health. So we want to kind of pull it all together in a way that we could all access. And not saying it wasn't done or isn't done well now. It's just this is what our proposal was. Our second one was a culture of well-being, both with student well-being and faculty well-being. And we were looking at programs to address the psychosocial needs while leveraging nature's restorative benefits. We were looking at a track for academic success initiatives, where there would be wellness workshops, curriculum development, and training on student well-being while integrating nature for academic success. So this would be for faculty, staff, as well as the students. And then we were hoping, and this was the big ask, we weren't sure this was going to work if we were to get the QEP, but we were going to have focus on an innovative campus environment, which would create wellness spaces, outdoor classrooms, and maybe even leverage and work with the community to have biking paths and walking opportunities to school to create an environment that allowed students to be able to be outdoors in an informal way on their way to classes. So this is a much more detailed thing, and each of these tracks or components had a well thought out. We thought it was a well thought out program, and these turned into something for us eventually, what I call a turnkey program. So as an interdisciplinary team, the Hope Lab collaborated with outside the Hope Lab with people in communications. The University of Recreation director at the time was part of this QEP. We were working with student affairs administration professor as well. So we kind of branched even further out than what the Hope Lab normally does. And we were able to share our perspectives and connect with one another with this shared idea of how to integrate nature into well-being for our students. A story or an example of this, or what happened with this turnkey program, is about 6 months after the QEP was announced, and we had realized we weren't going to get it. Dr. Batista and I were reached out to by the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs. He was given our name by the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs as two people who might be a good resource for their interest in developing campus installations, promoting wellness and ecotherapy. And so this idea, which we were trying to figure out how to get more outdoor spaces in our campuses, kind of stemmed from our work. However, it got embedded into the community, or it centralized people in thinking about a certain way, and so created the OWLS committee, which is the Outdoor Wellness Locations. And one of the products of this is similar to what Heidi mentioned. In 2024, 2 permanent outdoor labyrinths were installed on campus as part of this initiative. And I know there's been other plans, they just haven't come to fruition. And what's unique about these labyrinths, I think there were some other people behind who were interested in labyrinths that also came into play and connected on how to get people in the outdoors. So while the Healthy and Happy QEP was not chosen, it sparked vital conversations and initiatives around nature's impact on well-being, and we believe it laid the groundwork for future efforts to integrate well-being into our community. So we have turnkey projects that if we can find funding, or if the university came to us and said, hey, we need you to do this, we'd be able to pull out our QEP and be able to show what we can move forward with. So that's the QEP. The last presentation for y'all is on Appalachian Outdoorosity with Dr. Batista.
Great. Thank you, Joy. Just making sure that my microphone is on. Yeah, so I'm here to talk to you about Appalachian Outdoorosity. I think that the best part about working with this group is that one, I work with a lot of people on campus. My name is Becky Batista. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Public Health and Exercise Science. And I'm also a member of the Hope Lab. And so I get the benefit of working on the academic side. I'm a professor, so I have to do research. That's part of my responsibility. And I thoroughly enjoy doing the research aspect. And Brooke talked to you about what we do in the Hope Lab. But I'm also, as a full professor, you also have a little bit more, I guess, kind of freedom to do other things. And these other things are reaching out and working with other areas around campus. And once you kind of meet and greet some other people and you're like, oh, you really like nature, let's put this together and let's kind of collaborate. This is where all these things start to happen. This podcast, and I have the QR code. You can link to the QR code. It'll bring you right to our podcast. I also have the website linked on that slide, which you might not be able to actually link on, but at least it's there. But I'll talk to you a little bit about what I think is one of our more fun projects. It's not research-based. We did embed a little bit of research in there, but it is more of just kind of a fun project that we were, my colleagues, Joy was one of them, that we kind of sat around and were like, let's do a podcast, because everybody's doing a podcast right now. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Appalachian Outdoorosity. So my goal today is to highlight something I'm very, very proud of, and that is our Appalachian Outdoorosity podcast. We actually created this podcast before COVID, but really planned out how we wanted it to go during COVID, which is a time when being outside was really the only way to be active. We set up our podcast similar to Brene Brown's podcast. So we created a theme, we had a logo, we provided a little ditty before and after. So when you listen to the podcast, it has a little music to it, and then in the middle and then at the end again. We actually also added in some research aspects into the middle of the podcast, and then ended with a really funny story and then a quote. So very similar to Brene Brown, but we liked that. We liked listening to her, and so we modeled ours after that. that the Appalachian Outdoorsity podcast is one that entertains, inspires, and informs, all with the goal of getting you outside and keep you going outside. Having done these middle parts, so there's one person that interviews the guest, and then the other person will kind of be the intro and the middle and the ending part. And so I say this a lot. This whole Appalachian Outdoorsity podcast, I can kind of recite it in my sleep. That's how many times I've had to record this or this aspect of it. But I think that the most important thing is we actually believe in the power of the outdoors to support wellness. And that's exactly what we share in this podcast. The podcast is proudly supported by the Hope Lab, which you've heard about before. It's the Healthy Outdoor Play and Exercise, which is an interdisciplinary research group. Many of us are on this call today. And our mission within that lab is to look at outdoor activity, exercise, and play and how they contribute to the health, the environment, and human development. And so we take that and we look at, that's the mission that actually fuels every episode that we do in this podcast. Each episode actually brings a real story, from what to wear outside, to hiking, to paddling, to birding, which was a very popular episode, climbing, and simple ways anyone can really just get more active outdoor in nature. From those stories, we actually find research that supports the benefits of whatever was discussed in that podcast. We embed that in the beginning, we put that at the ending, and then we put that in the show notes. We also make space for laughter, and we end each episode with a funny or awkward outdoor moment from our guests called the dirt on getting outside. Because let's face it, we've all felt very unsure or out of place at some point outside, and that's okay. And we want to make sure that our listeners know that that's okay. And they actually are kind of some funny stories. We did create this podcast with students and beginners in mind because we know that everyone starts their outdoor journey very differently. We are very intentional about our interviews, making sure listeners hear a wide variety of experiences. And I'll tell you a little bit about who we are. So there's actually 3 of us, and then we actually have an audio technician. So with the gracious help of Dave Blank, who is our audio technician, I don't think we could do this without him. We are 3 very passionate advocates for outdoor recreation. It's myself, and Dr. Melissa Weddle, and they're both recreation management. Joy James and Melissa Weddle, recreation management. I'm in exercise science. We do bring very different perspectives, but we all have the same goal, and that's helping people connect with the outdoors in very meaningful ways. We've had 14 episodes with downloads ranging anywhere from 60 to 7,000. Yes, that is correct. 7,000 downloaded our one episode. It was episode 3, and it was faith-based outdoor experiences episode. Very highly sought after. I think they shared it with a lot of their friends, and it just kept kind of growing and growing. But most of our other episodes are anywhere from 60 to 100 listeners from what we've been seeing from the notes. We've been growing a great community of listeners who love getting outside just as much as we do. And really, our intention in this podcast is to highlight not only areas in and around Boone, but to also provide ideas about how do you get outside anywhere. People have shared stories. Joy and Melissa and I shared stories about Glacier, about things that we've had to do. Other people have talked about different areas that they really like to go across the country. So it's not necessarily just here in Boone, but we do live in a very beautiful part. So it's pretty easy to talk about Boone in many of these podcasts. So whether you're an outdoor pro or just starting to explore, we actually do invite you to tune in. Our podcasts are anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes at the most, and they are on all major podcast platforms. You can find them anywhere, really. And I would encourage all of you, if you're looking for adventure and you want to hear some good stories about adventures, tune in, listen. We've got some funny little stories in there. Get outside, get moving, check out our podcasts. And if you're interested in being a guest or have an idea for a podcast episode, we are always open to hear that also.
Thank you, Becky. We didn't think we'd share any embarrassing stories with y'all today, but please do have a listen. I'm going to open it up for any questions that you might have for any of the presenters. Thank you to each of them for taking time to shorten a topic into 3 minutes so that we could hear a lot more. So any questions? You can shout them out or you can put it in the chat. All right. No problem. Well, then the next thing I wanted to do before we go on to the before we go on to the discussion was I had a question for y'all to do the chat. And now I've got to find my question because I can't remember exactly what it was. I think here's what I was going to have y'all do. If you would put in the chat any initiatives that you are doing currently at App State or your campus that you would like to kind of showcase. We would love to hear what's being done, because we may not be aware of it. And the more we can kind of collect, the more we can be able to connect with people. So whatever you're doing, and Reagan or Brooke, you put what we're doing. All right. Nobody's doing anything? Are y'all still thinking about it? Oh, thank you. Phew. Thank you, Reagan. So as y'all are thinking about this, in October, and many of you may have done this, I went to the Campus Nature RX Symposium. And so Reagan put in there what we're working on with the freshman orientation. So we're hoping to get some funding for that, or at least we know we're going to be trying to intervene and have some strategies put into the freshman orientation to look at them using the outdoors as a way of being successful. All right. Of course, Jenny, Dr. Guide, you're doing pollinators, citizen sciences, and students. All right, awesome. Any others that you want to highlight? And then Holly, I know you and I've been talking about the Watauga Residential College. When you say student-led outdoor initiatives, would you be willing to kind of shout out what some of those are or put them in the chat?
Sure, I'm having trouble typing and keeping up with the conversation, so let's talk. Our students do so much of leadership for our program. Faculty and staff might support that in ways, but it really is student initiatives. So each fall they plan a camping trip, and probably it's at a campground in the area, maybe 20 or so will do that. We've got usually hikes that are led. They'll do several hikes throughout the year. We're going to join Joy, I believe it's next week, on a moonlight hike, and we're working to spend part of the overnight summer orientation out at Camp Broadstone to start our students off in that outdoor setting. I think historically Watauga had a requirement where students participated in outdoor programs. We're struggling to get students to sign up for things like that, but they'll go on our community initiatives that are led by their peers. So that's
Thank you, Holly.
doing. I'd love to do more, and I think Watauga could potentially be a subject of some of the research that you all are doing, and would love to partner with anybody who is doing that. And studying our students' mental health is a constant challenge, and so figuring out ways to support our students' physical and mental health is a goal of mine.
Thank you. And I highlight Holly just for a minute because it's another story of connections. I saw that Campus RX. I can't remember if it was Duke or somebody else who was doing the freshman orientation immersion of outdoors. And so I brought it back to the Hope Lab. Reagan and Brooke were like, yes, we want to do this. So we started talking to Sarah Garrow, who's here who's in charge of our freshman orientation. And next thing I know, I have Holly, who's an alumni of ours, and she's taught for us at Rec Management. I know she's an outdoor person, but all of a sudden she's like, Joy, hey, we want to do stuff over here. And I was like, oh, I had no idea. So it's amazing how when you start having conversations and trying to do things, how the word gets across campus. So I thought it was a great example of how we probably will be doing more work with you, Holly. Todd, I see you're working with us to increase programming and student practice in the field and increasing program offerings and diversity of offerings. Did I see, Todd, that you're in charge of a nature preserve at App State?
Not in charge of the preserve. I just mentioned that as my place where I go.
Your place. Thank you. Because I'm trying to find that nature preserve so we can get those freshmen going there. And so I'm embarrassed to say I've not been out there, and I know my alumni are like, "What? You should know where that's at." But cool.
Yeah, it's a wildly underutilized space. As far as I've seen, I'm often when I go out, I don't see anyone, which is nice for solitude. But
right. Well, another interesting thing in terms of trying to connect with other universities doing this, I saw that some universities have botanical gardens or they have nature preserves, but I can never pinpoint who's in charge or who, if it's landscape or if they have. So it's been an interesting dynamic trying to, because a lot of campuses have these things, but no one quite knows who's in charge. Um, let's see, what did Tori partner with forest bathing? Oh, Tori, can you tell us a little more about that? What you're doing?
So at UNC, we're if you're, I'm sure most of you are familiar with forest bathing, but it is a practice that has some origination in Japan, and so partnering with the Asian American Center to really just get people outside and really dive into the five senses outside and feeling, and so we're likely to do that in our it's probably not going to be at our outdoor education center because that's probably a little bit farther than some students want to walk. So we're going to dive into some of the places here on campus, probably the Arboretum and other areas that are closer to central campus and a little bit easier to access for some of the students, just so that we can get as many people as possible there. But really leaning into the exam times and trying to give them an opportunity to take advantage of de-stressing in that way.
Thank you, Tori. And then Megan, if you have a few minutes to talk too, I was gonna share I had reached out to NC State and to Link Larson, and I think that's how I got connected to you as well. And he mentioned y'all are going to be doing something in May with Campus Nature RX. Can you share a little bit with us about what y'all are doing?
Sure. Yeah, I think that what Lincoln was talking about, him and Aaron Hip and I believe Catherine Stevenson are planning a symposium, consortium, something like that, a get together of folks who are interested in all these things. And I believe that's on May 5th, 5th or 6th, something like that, to talk about health and nature and things like that. So I'm not directly involved, but I do know about the effort, and plan to represent our Campus Nature RX initiative. So we're just in our first year of launching Campus Nature RX on campus. So we've had, and here's my kitty joining too. So he always likes to join at the best times. He's seen. And so yeah, we're hoping to do an event actually next week with some rock painting, some eco journaling and things like that. And have two wonderful interns working with me, and they've been super excited. So they're also doing kind of a qualitative assessment of outdoor spaces on campus to see like how they're being used, and kind of doing some surveys of what folks might want to see more of, and what might make them use the outdoor spaces more.
Awesome. I also love that you bring in the art aspect, and this is where I think nature and the interdisciplinary nature of it, art, community, music, forest bathing, physical activity, it has, done outdoors can really have a magnifying impact on our own well-being. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that I appreciate y'all sharing out. It's just always interesting to hear what people are doing. I think the next thing I kind of wanted to check in with y'all about was, is this something we would want to continue talking about and sharing out? I don't want it to be a time where it's like, oh, I got to go do this. So it could be like if we want to do a once a semester type webinar. And Kim and I were talking, and Kelly, like, how do we get more representation from other campuses? And I know we're recording this, so I'm going to send it out to everybody who RSVP'd, as well as those who weren't able to show up today. So I know there's interest. I just don't know, is it valuable for y'all to come have these conversations or hear these brief presentations about what people are doing to kind of get ideas for your own campus? What are y'all's thoughts?
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Reagan. I
Lynn.
think you are.
I was just going to say, I think it's helpful. I mean, even like you mentioned, Joy, I mean, I don't know Holly, but it sounds like she would be a good addition to our team and some of the projects that we're doing. So, even if we're making within university or across university sort of connections here and building ideas and gathering ideas for ongoing initiatives or research or different things like that, I think this is how it happens. So I think it'd be really useful and helpful.
Thank you, Reagan. Other thoughts? Did you like the format of the 3-minute snapshot? Would you have rather had a more in-depth conversation with one person presenting? Because there were so many things that were lost. Like exercise is medicine, Logan. It's just there's so much going on. And then, the component of like how you're also even helping them maybe look at being in the outdoors. So, if y'all are happy with the 3-minute synopsis, we can continue that way. Or if we have it like, again, I didn't know if Lincoln was going to be doing this Campus RX, we could have them come in and showcase what they did to kind of generate that discussion for the larger campus. Decrease student age participant outdoor. Oh, and how to intervene. That's a great one, Todd. So I see what you're saying. Maybe have kind of like a showcase and then have discussion topics that we could all kind of center around. Okay. And we'll mark this topic. Maybe that's be our next topic. Well, barring nothing else to add to this, I don't want to keep you here. I want to use your time wisely as well. And Judy just put something up. So let's see. Okay, ways of using outdoor experience as an education tool for reflecting and changing student behaviors. Only a dialogue right now. Thank you for sharing that, Judy. And again, it's a space for it. And I think that's one of the reasons too. I was so thrilled to have Heidi here showcasing what they're doing. Because the other thing, Heidi, I've often talked to Becky, but I hadn't heard the larger picture. Or I mean, I'm thrilled that y'all are working with the QEP in terms of climate and sustainability. And I don't know, have y'all read the Happy Path to Sustainability article? I saw that it was talked about the Campus RX. If you haven't, I'll send that out to you all as well. And it's talking about how experiences with nature, positive experiences lead to positive attitudes and wanting to protect, as opposed to some of the doom and gloom that you might impact on. And so this is some research that was done, I think, a couple of years ago. And I love it, the Happy Path to Sustainability. So I'll leave you with that. Yes, Becky, I would enjoy hearing what other campuses are doing as well. All right. So I'm going to stick around. Kim will stick around if you have any questions for us. I'm happy to plan the next one and reach out to maybe it should be UNC. Sorry, it should be University of North Carolina State. I told Kim I was going to blow that.
North Carolina State University.
North Carolina State University.
My work like friends.
So I apologize, but maybe we can invite them to the table, or if you who are on this call, if you would like to be on the next one to showcase what you're doing, let me know, and I'll get you in as part of the 3-minute snapshot. Todd, we'll connect with you about the summer orientations. Yes, that we'll put you on that committee as well. I don't know why we don't even think about the most obvious people to contact. That is so academic. I apologize. So I was glad Holly reached out, and Todd, I'm glad you're saying something. Thank you all.